الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Islamic Center at New York University podcast, coming to you straight from the heart of New York City. We're building an amazing Muslim community here at ICNYU where everyone is welcomed and respected no matter where you're from or where you're at. This is the place to be. So open your ears and your heart and come along with us on another life-changing journey. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the Master of the Day of Judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the Day of Judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. One of the more well-known scholars of our tradition in the generation of individuals of this ummah that came after the immediate generation of the Prophet ﷺ, the generation that were known as the Tabi'een. There's a man by the name of Malik ibn Dinar, rahimahullah. He's said to have a lot of influence in terms of the development of our tradition. Known as a scholar, somebody who became a key figure in the propagation of our religious tradition within the Indian subcontinent, from where many of you find your heritage. Malik ibn Dinar, rahimahullah, on one occasion, he sees a funeral procession that is taking place. And he goes and participates in the funeral to the extent that he actually is now helping to put the body into the ground. If you've ever been a part of a janazah prayer, not just the actual congregational prayer, but thereafter a part of putting the body into the earth from which it came, you know that that's a very intense experience. That our funerals are not such where you have a lot of pomp and circumstance and there's caskets and things like that, but the body is simply shrouded in a simple cloth. Malik ibn Dinar, when he goes through this experience, it has an impact upon him. And he says that evening when he lays down to his bed to sleep, he has a dream where he's in the grave with this man that he had been a part of the burial process of. And he says while he's in the grave, there are two angels, the angel of mercy and the angel of punishment. And may Allah make us from amongst those who are carried forward to His Jannah by His angels of mercy. That the angels of mercy and the angels of punishment, they're now looking at this man that in that day, Malik ibn Dinar had buried just hours before. And the angel of punishment, he starts to comment as he looks at this man. And he says, look at his eyes that are filled with bearing witness to what Allah has prohibited, the haram that he viewed. Look at his ears that are filled with things he wasn't supposed to listen to. The tongue that is filled with statements that were vile and obscene, speaking ill of others. Look at his stomach. Look at his sexual organs. These things that were drawn towards what was prohibited. And the angel of mercy says, look at his heart. It is filled with faith. And he is mine. You want to be able to think about fundamentally what this deen is rooted in. It's not a tradition that is just about things that are outward or apparent. But everything goes back to what is taking place in here. At-taqwa ha-huna, our Prophet ﷺ says, this is the seat of taqwa. May Allah make us from the muttaqeen. The seat of taqwa is your heart. It's not your tongue. Everything goes to a place that recognizes that what we have capacity to do and perceive is going to have limitations to it, but Allah knows what is in the hearts of people. And that's where the focus has to be. You and I are amongst now those who are blessed in this world to be just 2 months, give or take, from the ni'mah that is Ramadan. May Allah allow for us to reach it, witness it, and benefit from it. May He make us from amongst those who take from it all that it has to offer. But these days are the days that you start to think about those days. Don't be from amongst those who are only thinking about it once you're in the midst of it, with strategy, awareness. And the purpose of these rituals and practices that we're given with regularity is that they continue to have gain for us. That we're not in a place where Allah gave us the gift of salah so that we would be in a place where it's the same thing again and again and again. The ritual in and of itself is in a place where we are experiencing its form, but we are meant to change, and hence it should have different impact on us. It should be transformative. You don't want to have a Ramadan that's the exact same way as what it was before, and you start to think from now as to how what it is that you will take from it uniquely based off of what you have learned from Ramadans in the past. And the foundation of it is that it's meant to be something that we welcome and we draw into us. That we understand that even the depictions that are given to us of it in the Quran and the Hadith give it such a depiction that it's meant to be definitive. Quite often when this word is given, Ramadan, and the month of Ramadan is described, we see it as something that's coming, but the coming is described with the Arabic word ja. And when you talk about something using this word, ja, it's usually talking about something that is tangible, a person, an individual. When you talk about an idea, a concept that is coming, something that is abstract, you can't hold it in your hand, you don't use that word. Use a word like ata. But Ramadan is described in such a way that the people who truly were welcoming it the way that you would welcome a friend that you hadn't seen for months. The way that you are elated and excited that I see this individual that is coming now. I want them to come to my home. I want them to be in my company. I want them to be in my presence. May Allah make us from amongst those who love Ramadan like that. You start to think about it from here and what it means at this juncture in your life to have impact on what's going on in the world inside of you. That it's not just about something that is simple enough that everybody is able to take from it. Because you have literal hadith that the Prophet ﷺ is in a place where he is making dua and saying Ameen. And from one of those categories that he says to is that somebody who witnessed Ramadan and they didn't take anything from it, indicating
that it's really hard, that you cannot be someone who gains from this blessed month. But from today, you think about what it means to experience it on the transformation of the inward. And what are the facets, the mechanisms that I have to think that are going to prevent me from getting to that place? In many khutbahs across the world, you hear the recitation of verses of the Quran that speak about taqwa. One of these verses tells us to have taqwa of Allah as He deserves. And it says, don't leave this world other than in a state of submission to Allah. اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. That state of submission gives us an indication of a unique paradox that exists within our theology. That you have been given human agency, the ability to choose, the ability to have accountability be applicable because you make your decisions. But the pinnacle of human agency is the realization, paradoxically, that you want to submit to divine will, not your own will. You don't want to be subservient to yourself, but that human agency brings you to a place where it helps you to realize that what you want to be subservient to and what you want to leave this world in is in a state of submission willfully to the will of the divine. The opportunity to recognize what our hadith teaches us, not just in senses that are metaphorical or things that are meant to just illustrate, but things that are actual. That when we are taught in the hadith that Iman is a light in your heart, then that means that it is a light in your heart. When you have narrations that tell you that what would you say of a people that if they had a river that ran outside of the door of your home and they would bathe in it 5 times a day, giving an indication of the prayer being something that is an actual washing of your inside. When you're talking about Ramadan and its practices, these are not meant to be things that we understand just in a way that is illustrative or metaphorical, but things that are actually real. The same way you take a shower every day. The same way you take a shower maybe every other day. You're in a place where some of you might take showers twice a day, 3 times a day. The purpose of your salah is that it's washing your heart. It's in a space where it's removing things that are of filth. If you had somebody who was in a place where they took a physical bath once a month, they took a literal bath maybe a couple of times every week, what would you say about that person in terms of their hygiene and other things? What Ramadan offers are 30 days and 30 nights of a literal washing of the inward. A night within it, may Allah make us from amongst those who witness it, that is better than 1,000 months. Why would you not start planning from today? The yield and the objective is not just something that is without awareness and consciousness. And to recognize what are the elements that come into play that will keep us from it. Can we have everyone move in really close? There's a lot of room and there's still a good number of people that are going to show up. If any space in front of you, just fill it up so we can make room for those that are coming in. What the hadith tells us about this blessed month, فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ وَغُلِقَتْ أَبْوَابُ النَّارِ وَصُفِدَتْ الشَّيَاطِينِ, that all of the gates of Jannah are open. فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ. It's your choice. Literally, you can pick which door of paradise you want to go through. Because all of the gates of Jannah are open, the hadith is saying. The gates of Jahannam, they are closed, and the shayateen, they are chained. So if Shaytan is chained in that month, then these days are days that he's going to try to go wild in getting you to a place that has you meet that month in a state other than that is your best ability to meet it. And any one of us that is in a place where we say, that's not going to apply to me, you are kidding to yourself. And as your brother who loves you, you want to not understand belief and conviction in our tradition as something that is just rotely memorized, or somebody asks you, what are the elements of your faith, that you just spit them out, but they don't have concrete conviction in your heart. Shaytan is a reality, and the denial of Shaytan as a reality is an act of kufr. May Allah protect us from it. You don't want to live in this world in a way where only what is tangible or empirically given some basis is what you follow and you yield to. And if Iblis can get you to a place where he has you believe that you cannot succumb to his whispers, he's got you. And you think now about what it means. Because we are taught about the waswasa of Shaytan, may Allah protect us from it. Ameen. But that waswasa is something that the Quran teaches us. You and I individually have a role in allowing for Shaytan to come in or not come in. الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ. That the whispers, they come into the sadr. The sadr is your outer chest. It's not the qalb. When in Surah Baqarah it says, فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٍ, it's talking about the spiritual heart. The layers that are there are the sadr at the outside, the qalb is thereafter, you then have the fu'ad, like the Quran speaks to us about the mother of Moses, peace be upon him, whose anxiety exists in her fu'ad, that she lays her baby into the water. It's the seat of emotions. And then we have at the center of it all the lub. That the reality of the lub to the rest of the heart is likened to the reality of your pupil to the rest of your eye, or the relationship of the Kaaba to the city of Mecca. But how does Shaytan get from the whispers of the sadr into the qalb of an individual? Because if the whispers are just knocking at what is externally there, there's got to be ways that the entrance is being allowed. What our teachers teach us is that the avenues that Shaytan utilizes, you can define broadly in a category of what's called the shahwat, the desires. But fundamentally, what Shaytan uses to get within you are your own characteristics yourself. If you are in a place where you wrestle with certain challenges, you have negative qualities that exist. There is even opportunity where at the guise of what is beneficial, you create now a subtlety of arrogance, may Allah protect us from it, that will allow Shaytan to enter. And the entry points of Iblis are not just one-off, but he continues to come again and again and again. And you play a role in determining how it is that you will allow for him to be within you in this most critical part of your being, that is your qalb. And the strategies are about recognizing vulnerability for me alone and what the end objective is. That I want to be one who lives the way the verse says, that my transition from this world is in a state of Islam. Subjugation and subservience to the divine, who not just watches me but watches over me. I don't want to be leaving this world in a state of subservience to my hawa, my desire. In the middle of January till the middle of March, there is that many weeks that Shaitan's whispers are now going to come in a mode that is unique to you. Getting to a place now where we can understand the characteristics, the attributes of us. that can be now the vehicle through which Iblis will come to me. As he continues to come and continues to come and continues to come, he sits now in that place where that iman, that faith, that Malik ibn Dinar sees the angel of mercy talking about, exists potentially in the hearts. May Allah make us from the mu'mineen.
Ameen.
But it can also be the place where if you let those whispers move out from the sadr into the qalb, you have now given waswasa an abode in your heart that's going to impact how it is that you process the things around you. You want to make it analogous to something that's more tangible. You can think about it in terms of the homes that you live in. New York City is a little bit different. You can be in a place where it's unlikely that if you live in an apartment, somebody's just going to start knocking on your door randomly. But if any of you have ever lived in a different part of this country, a different part of the world, where it's not just apartment next to apartment next to apartment, where people don't really talk to each other, even if they've lived next to each other for 10 years. But you live in a neighborhood, and somebody rings your doorbell, and you don't really know or are expecting anybody. You have a choice now as to whether you're going to let that person into your home or not. And this is the relationship of the sadr to the qalb. That when Iblis is knocking on the outside of the door, that's the whispers to the chest. When you open the door to let him in your home, now he's in the house. And when the Quran says that Iblis now beautifies the acts of the individual, that beautification is not based off of the standard of the beauty of the divine, but it's a beautification based off of what it is that is going on in the house of the individual. If you've ever been in a place where you've had somebody come into your home, a new roommate, a family member, a friend. When I got married, I had lived as a bachelor, and a lot of people also lived in my apartment with me. My son Kareem, my daughter Medina, we go to any part of the world, there's always people that we meet that will come and will say to them, that are now also 10, 11 years older than when they lived in my apartment, and they'll go to my children and say, I used to live in your room. My kids will look at me and say, Baba, what is this man talking about? Before I got married, sometimes we didn't even lock the door to my apartment. Anybody needed a place to stay, they could stay. When my wife moved in, she said, all of this man stuff is going out. That couch that literally every man that comes and visits and says they've slept on it, we are not sitting on that anymore. And I'm not making my wife analogous to Shaytan, which I realize is happening in my head. But when we got married, she changed everything in the apartment. It looks really nice. But I want you to think from what it is that the analogy is seeking to illustrate. This literally is happening inside of you. When you let Shaytan in, he is enhancing the anxiety, the insecurity. He is letting you think that it's okay for you to speak poorly about people. That your racist behaviors are somehow validated because they're rooted in the culture that you say you find your heritage in. You don't want to play games. Because these things cannot coexist simultaneously. And you want the light of Iman to be there, to give you an understanding and impact now perspective and vision through a different way. What are the moments that Shaitan comes? Where our teachers teach us, it's at moments of ghafla, heedlessness. Heedlessness is not when you are outside of prayer. Prayer in and of itself is meant to inform the state of consciousness you have when you are out of the prayer. Heedlessness is not that you are surrounded by people who are of other faiths, because you can be sitting with your friends and the realities of the hadith are true. وَلَا تُكَثِّرَ الدَّهْكِ فَإِنَّ كَثْرَةَ الدَّهْكِ تُمِيتُ الْقَلْبِ. Do not laugh in excess, because indeed in excess of laughter it weakens the heart, it kills the heart. When you are sitting with some of your closest people and you are all together in private, not secret, and you are now just running your mouth wild, thinking there's no qualms, you're creating heedlessness. The ghafla is there. May Allah protect us from it. And that's the entry point of Shaytan. Because the remembrance, it gets thrown out the window. What do our traditions teach us about ways that we take care of our inward? And there's a lot of different capacities that we can understand this in, but a few in specific as you ready for Ramadan that you want to be mindful of. One, the remembrance of the akhirah, rooted in a remembrance of death. Not in a morbid way, but in a real understanding that time is limited. And it's built into our tradition. You have likely prayed behind many people who, when they stand to lead the prayer, they will tell you in whatever language they speak, pray as if it's your last prayer. They're doing this to give you an idea that you don't know if you're going to make it to the next one. A group of us were going to a talk in New Jersey, and Asr had just come in. And we had enough time to make it to the destination where the sheikh was speaking and pray Asr there. And one person in the group said to all the rest of us that let's just pray here. And people said, I don't really want to make wudu, I don't want, right? Shaytan enters in a lot of different ways. And then that one person said, what if we die on the way to the talk? That's a reality. You don't have a guarantee that tomorrow you're going to get to fix the mistake that you have the ability to fix now. You don't have a guarantee that the acts that you have the means to perform, that it's going to be there waiting for you tomorrow, because tomorrow might not come. It's a spiritual remembrance and meditation that we are taught to engage in, because it gives us an understanding that is distinct from a lot of the rest of this world that takes its old people and sticks them in homes elsewhere because they don't know how to deal with the fact that they will age and they will die. That it seeks to put on a pedestal a certain frame of existence that is just a period in your life that you have outward vibrancy, at the denial of what is inward vitality. And so, in these days, you just sit down and engage deliberately. How am I going to be when I leave from this world? If there's an angel of mercy and an angel of punishment standing in my grave, what are they going to see? In the days before I pass from this world, what will the individual that exists of the version of me at that time be grateful of in terms of who I am today, and be in a place where they despise me because of the choices I made at this time in my life? Who are the people that I will know are standing at my funeral, if you were to picture that taking place? And are you surprised by the people that are not there versus the people that actually are? The meditative practice that is there to reflect on the fact that we have finite time in this world gives us now the opportunity to then yield an understanding that I wasn't given these moments to waste, especially not in heedlessness. A second thing that you can do for that internal state to keep Shaytan away, you got to recite Quran. The tilawah of Quran is the key mechanism for the rust of the heart to be pushed away. This is the type of habit that you don't want to get in your own head about. It's one of the things that if you were to choose between doing it 0% or 50%, because you're not able to do it 100%, whatever that means, then do it 50%. If Shaytan comes in and uses your insecurity that I should be doing more of this, yeah, you probably should be doing more, but that's okay. You are where you are now. Read a verse, hear its recitation. The hadith tells us that the recitation in the prayer is better than the recitation outside of it. So if you're in a place where you're not familiar with the ability to recite, which is fine, then come and pray in congregation and hear somebody lead you in prayer. The Quran defines itself as a shifa, a healing. It defines itself as huda, guidance. It defines itself as rahmah, mercy. It's a text that's very conscious of the fact that it is a text, and it's remarkable in what it offers of insight. You just got to read it. And through this perspective, for the state of your heart. The third, for the state of your inward, fight against the haram. Don't make justifications and excuses for it. Shaitan is going to get you where you are most vulnerable. If you make a mistake and you fall, just get back up. Allah is always there. And He says He loves the tawabin, the ones that turn back to Him and make tawbah. But you think within yourself, where am I most vulnerable? Who are the people that bring out the best in me and the people who bring out the worst in me? The environments that I situate myself in. Because it's not a game. The thing that's at the end is what I know akhirah to be. May Allah make us people of Jannah. What am I going to do for this most precious part of me? And how is it that I'm going to take care of it? And not the last because it's exhaustive, but the last in terms of what we'll be discussing today and going forward, thinking about it differently, strategically, leading into Ramadan. Make a concerted effort to be consistent in your prayers. Your daily salah was not given to you as a mechanism of burden, but is a mechanism that connects now as a link your heart to the divine. It serves the purpose, the Quran says, that it's a protection from those things that are fahsha and munkar. Corruption, wicked, evil things. It's a mechanism that the Prophet says, as we mentioned before, that it's literally analogous to if you were taking a bath 5 times a day, your outward would be so clean. You take a bath inwardly 5 times a day. You have a spiritual washing inwardly. I don't know how it works. I'm not God. But that's what it is that the messenger of God says that it does, so it's true. It's washing your heart. That sadness you can't overcome, that anxiety that pops up at the worst times, that fear, that inhibition, all of those things. Your salah is a mechanism to wash it all away. In this day of Jumu'ah, make a dua that you are going to be committed and steadfast, and there is nothing that is going to get in your way of being able to perform it to the best of your ability. And you're going to find yourself in a place where the doors open for even more, and the heart becomes what is at the center of how it is that your prayer, your fasting, your Quran, your Ramadan, as well as every other day that you are in this world is experienced. But that decision is subjective. Nobody can choose your choices for you. The choices that you are forced into, our tradition says you are not accountable for those. But the days that you are spending, you bring your own awareness into it. And whether you are strategic or not, Shaitan is strategizing in the ways that He has told us He is going to strategize. But the simple things that our tradition gives to us that you can easily implement, you just have to choose whether you will act upon those or not. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسول. Inshallah, from next week, the crux of the students at NYU will be returning for their spring semester. Please make special dua, whether you are a student or not, that Allah puts barakah into their studies, grants them benefit and ease during their time here. Later today, many of our Muslim student leaders are going to be meeting to plan what the coming months will look like, collaborations, make special dua for them, that Allah increases them in their sincerity and conviction and makes their efforts that are pleasing to Him and Him alone. And where we have opportunity in the coming weeks, we're going to be starting a lot of our programs and a lot of our halaqat again. Mondays we'll be hosting iftars. Fast on Mondays. It's a recommended day to fast. It'll help you get over the physicality of the nature of the fast in Ramadan if you have the physical capacity to do so. We'll have the halaqah schedule that we had from last year still with myself, Dr. Marwa, and Sheikh Fayaz. But on Tuesday nights, Dr. Ali Murmur, who's mashallah been studying Quran and teaching Quran for almost 5 decades. He's brilliant, intelligent, compassionate, kind scholar of this religion. He'll be starting a class on Tuesdays, resuming as we did before COVID, where he engages the Quran. You should definitely be there. It'll help you to build a relationship with the Quran, especially in advance of Ramadan. And then on Wednesday nights, we'll be starting a new class also that is a Foundations of Islam class, targeted to the growing number of people we see who take Shahada in our community, mashallah. May Allah grant them ease, but also open to anyone. As many of you are individuals who we have gone through a similar trajectory where later in our life, we are now consciously choosing religion and we want to understand it as best as we can. It's a class that would be good for you in terms of the basics of just theology, ritual, spirituality, and then everyday practice, how to be Muslim in this world. And so many other programs that will be continuing as well. Our brother Suhaib will be teaching Quran and its recitation on the weekends. And for those of you who are interested in learning how to read the Quran, you should definitely do that. And lastly, some of our sisters will be hosting for students a sisters circle on Jumu'ah in the later afternoon starting from next week, and we'll put all of this out on our listserv in addition to other things. But be a part of these gatherings. Make time for learning and increasing so that that inward state is something that now bears its impact on the outward manifestations of our ritual, our prayer. And as we grow, we need to deliberately do this, because that world out there could care less if you practice your Islam or not. And most of it could care less whether you're in Jannah or not after this world. But it's very different that if the majority of the people there are not thinking about it, you have to care about where it is that you're going to be beyond this world. And let that be the basis of how you then choose to engage your time in this dunya. Inshallah ta'ala, Allah will make us people who make decisions through our hearts and never at their expense, and make us all people of His paradise. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad في الأولين وفي الآخرين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present herein and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all other hearts that are gathered here, only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Make us from amongst those who reach, witness, and benefit from the blessed gift that you have given to us, that is Ramadan. Help us to utilize these days ahead of us, to be ready for it in every way possible, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Make us those who yearn to fast during its days, those who have the strength and the desire to stand into the depths of its blessed nights, those who are thinking now as to what it is that we will need to do to be able to take advantage of every minute, of every hour, of every day of that blessed month. And let not any one of us experience it without leaving in a way that is of benefit to us. Let these days be days, Ya Rabbi, that are days that we take care of our hearts. Let these days, Ya Allah, be days that we increase in an understanding that these bodies are going to be left behind in this world. And there are more important parts of us that will be moving forward in our journey towards you. Make us those, Ya Allah, who are always aware of your presence. Make us those, Ya Allah, who are always aware that you are watching over us. Help us to find strength through that awareness. Help us to find courage to draw hope from it. And let us never be those who pushes somebody away from you, who speaks poorly, mistakenly on your behalf, not knowing what it is that we are doing or saying that is causing more hurt, not just to the heart that we are pushing away, but in turn back to our own heart. Make us people who uplift your creation, people who bring strength and hope to them, and help us to come together always on principles of truth, patience, and mercy, and things that are pleasing to you. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأقيم الصلاة.
We hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you're inspired by the work that we're doing at the IC and want to help keep it going, subscribe to our podcasts, follow us on social media, donate to help support us at ICNYU.org, and most importantly, keep us in your continued du'as. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.